I always have Hazel sit first. I step away from her. I give a little reward or treat to the new person that I'm introducing her to. Come back. She waits for me to come back next to her. With my right hand, I pat her chest and I say, go say hi. She gets a treat. And I just say, come, because she had an issue with jumping. Sit. So, especially if she's meeting, well, if she's meeting a new person or a person she knows, she could be equally as excited. So, at the first time that you send her over, you want to call her right back to come. And the reason that the treat's down there on ground level is because if everything good is down there, the person's hands and the treat, she's not going to need to jump. All the good stuff's down there already. Go. Come. And then next time, pet her, okay? Pet her. All right, so sit and tell the, whoever you're introducing to, you can pet her as well. If they're not giving her their hands, sooner or later she's going to want to be touched, so she's going to jump and she's going to force somebody to touch her, and of course that's what causes the jumping problem. No, make sure she waits. See, she's very anticipatory, so always watch that anticipation that she has. Make sure she really waits till you go. Send her over. Good. Come. One more time. Good. So we've done this exercise a bunch of times with her, many, many times. Sit. So you can also, if you're practicing with a friend or somebody that has a little extra time, you can throw in some extra stuff like the sit stay. And then give them the treat. And then go over and reward her. Or go over and release her. Go. Good girl. Come. So that's a routine that I practice every day. Sit with as many people as possible. It's a great way to practice her, sending her somewhere, calling her to come, her sit stay. Just another way to practice those things in a real life situation, in a way to teach her respect for another person, so she doesn't jump. I always have her sit at gateways. And I practice this sit stay at boundaries. The gate brushed her little toe, so she popped up. But I practice at every boundary. I always have her sit. I step away, step up out front. She waits till I come back. Okay, and then she walks through with me. I make sure that I really enforce that walking through slowly and calmly rule, so that she doesn't get used to pulling you through doorways and rushing through boundaries, whether it's a doorway, gateway, curb, whatever. That's why I always practice at the curb as well whenever I start out the walk. Sit. And I always start the walk from the inside of my house when I put the leash on her. That's when the training starts, because she does this at the door, the front door as well, which you're going to see. Show that dog and that guy there. So she sees that dog and that person, and there's a lot going on in the street right now. But she's in a sit stay. She may be interested, but she knows she has to stay in a sit stay until I release her. And she probably won't even want to take a treat. Maybe, maybe not. She will this time. Good. But she gets kind of excited sometimes when she sees another dog. So she's a lot calmer and able to keep it together a lot more than she used to be now. She can still stay in a sit stay. The closer that dog would have been, like if it would have been right here and popped out in front of us, she may have broken out of the sit stay. Nope, but if that would have happened, you just reset her. And in that case, if the dog's right on top of you and even coming over here, maybe you want to kind of go the other way. But if you're 20 feet away like we were here, she's going to be pretty good. She can do a sit stay or down stay. And of course, as you continue to practice this, she'll get better and better. Okay. Sit. Good. I wanted to pick a fairly public place, public spot to show you her sit stay. And you saw that I said sit. She sat immediately. What I used to do the first 3 weeks, I would say sit, she would sit, and then she wasn't looking up to me. I would tap her, she would look up, and I'd say good. And you should do that for a while, like at least a couple weeks. Then you can start giving her a treat every other time and every third time and phase the food out. If you phase the food out, the treats out like I did within like 3 weeks or so, the training's going to be a lot better. And we have people walking towards us, and that's why we're doing it here. And we have a cart coming. So we're going to test her sit stay. I told her to sit like a minute and a half ago. We got people coming from behind. She's interested, but good, she still is sitting. So Another thing about the sit command, if she doesn't do it immediately when you say it, never repeat the command because it'll dilute the power of that command. So if you said sit and she didn't do it, just pull up with a little bit of pressure. Literally like I'm doing now, just a little bit of pressure. You're not jerking, you're not doing any of that. Everything's gentle but firm. Her butt will go down. As soon as her butt touches the ground, you release it. And then of course stay is built into sit, so you don't have to say stay. I've never said stay to her. And a basic sit stay is where you walk around, she accepts you walking around both ways. Now we're probably working on like a 3-minute sit stay in public with all this stuff going on around us, which is good. And the way to release her, to have her continue walking with you, is to go stand back next to her. And by the way, you saw how I rewarded her twice. Straight down, tap her so she's looking up. Good. Straight down while she's looking at you in the eye. So that's how you reward her when she's sitting. And then when you want to release her and have her walk with you, come back, stand next to her and say, okay, and she'll walk with you. See how I did the down there? Just to make sure she did it right away, because sometimes in public she's a little bit hesitant about the down. Down is usually a little bit harder of or more difficult of a command for a dog to learn than sit. I did everything at once. I lifted my left foot. I really barely touched the leash, because now she's really just kind of, she sees your foot and she'll just go down. But I did it at the very second that I said the word. What you don't want to do is give her the command, have her not do it or hesitate. If she tries to get up, just put her back like that. This is kind of a hard place for her to do this, which is why we're filming it here, just to show you what she's capable of, that she can do this out in a public place, which means that she has a pretty good downstay. But anyway, if you wait for her to hesitate and then you do it, you'll be doing that for a long time. So you don't want to be saying down, she hesitates, she waits for you to put her there. That could go on forever. So put the action with the word at that moment. We got a big cart coming, which you'll see in a minute. Good. I'm going to desensitize her to this with some food. Notice how before these guys came past, I saw them coming. If I would have waited till they're right next to me and she was already excited by it, it would have been too late. But to prevent her from popping up and keep her calm, when you have any kind of big distraction coming, good. You want to have her in, oh, I'm getting a reward mode first, and it desensitizes her to that occurrence, and then over time, and actually with her it'd just be a few days, you don't even need the food anymore. Good. Carts coming from behind is even harder for her. So you just saw how I desensitized with food, desensitize her to distraction. Timing's really important. If she pops up out of a down before you allow her to, you say no, and you just put her back. She's scared because there's a bunch of wood being loaded back there, and you can hear all the noises. But we're going to end this on a success, and you get to see how she deals with a lot of noise. Okay. And you're likely to not be trying to do downstays or sit stays in a situation this crazy. But we're showing you this so you see that she can actually deal with even this. Hey, right there. Good. So you'd say no, you do your little reset, and all the buzzers and noises are going off at once, and all the carts going off at once. It's a lot going on. So if you have an episode where she makes a mistake, you just get her back, put her back. We're going to get her out of here right now because this is really tough for her. See more things being carried past. But we still ended on a success. Okay. She's waiting for you to pat your leg and say okay. So you saw what I do if she breaks out of a down. You saw how she reacts to a lot of craziness, a lot of distractions, and it's really about you learning how to, it's okay. It's really about you learning how to do the moves that I'm doing, just to be calm. Hey, Happy New Year. And just getting more confident with the handling, which you're already getting a good handle on because we've been practicing, of course. And the more confident you are with the way you handle her in these types of situations, the better she'll be. Of course, every day she's going to get better and better. You just keep doing things the way you see I've been doing them on the video. When I'm walking her in training mode, I'm holding the leash like this. It's coming out the back of my hand. The part that goes to her comes out the back of my hand, because then all you have to do are these prompts where my arm is completely relaxed, as you can see, and I'm just kind of gently giving her little signals. So, okay, if I want to turn, prompt, which slows her down, and turn. And by the way, I'm always turning into her. Prompt, turn. There's some noise there. Show what's going on there. So the guy started up his truck, the other guy comes with the cart right past us. We're just going to keep walking her. If you're in a situation that's just so crazy like this and you kind of have to stay in the general area, if you just walk her around and continue, I'm going to let this guy go past and continue, but he's not going to go past, is he? He's going to stay right where we were wanting to be. It's all right. So sit. There's something about going and turning left, and she's on your left, and your body showing her where to go and kind of hurting her, in essence, that makes her feel safe, because it's a very dominant move. And you can see we had all this stuff happening, and I just kept doing that and turning and walking, and she calmed down, and she's okay. And that leash stayed loose. The most I ever did was prompt to kind of like tap the brakes if she goes too fast. No, it's always like that. It's never like this. You never want to restrain her, because that makes her nervous and likely to perform, all kinds of bad behavior, because over time the dog, after having a tight leash, they start to jump again, and they can develop leash aggression because they're stressed out. So never a tight leash. The only way you're using the leash is like this. It's like a pop and release. And it's not even a pop, it's like a little signal, because we're not doing it to cause pain, we're giving her a signal. And then we use our body to walk into her. And even if I want to go right, it's an opportunity for me to go left, to go right. And every time I do that, it just gives her a little dose of, hey, you're safe, I'm in charge, everything's cool. And we didn't know it was going to be this crazy here, but you know, she can handle it now after all this training. So it's good to just show you kind of how she is in the presence of all this craziness. This is perfect. Also, if she gets excited about something going on, you always have, come. Good. So I'm going to launch right into the come command. I always practice left hand leash, right hand reward. We got our big pouch with big pockets, so you're not fumbling in some little fanny pack or something like that. You can just dig into either side. Come. Good. She takes the treat out of your right hand. Your left hand grabs the leash, and then you can just do your left circle and go if you want to get her out of there. But notice how when I say come and I back away, she's drawn to me. Good. And we're doing it in the presence of a big distraction here. And she's a little bit nervous, but she's still doing okay. So that's really important, because when you back away, come, dog is drawn to you. Good. I always make a fist. I have the reward in my fist, but she'll come to this now with nothing. And of course, when you come to her, if you're making a fist, she doesn't know it's empty. So in a pinch, you know, in a crisis situation, just pretend like you have food. She'll come to you every time. And of course, if she ever ignored that command, you've got the leash when you're practicing, and so you do this. Just a prompt, it's a signal. And back away, and she'll come your way. Good. So it's kind of like if you ever said come and she didn't come to you, you just do a little, it's like that, and it's like, hello, I just called you. She turns around, she sees your target, and you're backing away, she's going to come to you. So that's the way I've been practicing come. Sit. Okay, so I have Hazel sit. Every time that I go through the front door especially, it's the most important doorway. This is the front door to the training house. I have her sit, I step in, she waits till I come back next to her, I say okay, she walks through without pulling, I do a left turn, close the door, and in this case I'm going to take her straight to do her little exercise, her little station mat exercise. Notice how I'm always doing left turns. Sit. Did a left turn to turn around to close the door, did a left turn here to have her sit. If you do that, you'll have little or no tension on the leash at all. We have a barking husky behind the camera person, which will probably continue, but hey, if she can do it in the presence of this, then she's pretty good, I guess. So she's sitting, I'm gonna pat her chest and say, go to your mat, and say down. She's gonna go down on her little mat, and then I'm just gonna start rewarding her. Good. And you always want to just reward, like, see, hold it like this, and just place it on the mat, and then let go and leave it on the mat. She needs to wait until you withdraw before she takes the food. She needs to be calm and respectful, just like this. Good. She needs to wait and then take it off the mat, not touch your hand. And if she does keep touching your hand, you can either just pull back and say no, 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 like that, until she waits. She knows what that means, so it probably won't take more than a couple of times. Or occasionally, if it's really bad for some reason, you can go like that. Just give her a little tap and she'll back off. But she really knows how this works, as you can see. Good. She'll wait until I withdraw and take it off the mat. And you need that. That's respect. It means that she's thinking. If you were just tossing the food down or she was just grabbing it out of your hand, even though she was staying in a downstay, you'd have little or no benefit from this exercise, because it's all about her being calm when she's in a downstay. Really solid calm, so that no distraction can make her get up. And of course, we're starting with just a basic downstay where I walk around both ways, everything that you want her to do in public. Good. We practice that a lot because a lot of dogs have a downstay until you walk behind them and then they pop up. So we made sure she could accept you walking all the way around from either side, and then we went from there to do harder things. So now I'm dropping the leash. I'm going to walk to the back of the house, out of her sight, and then back again. Just everything I'm doing, I'm making it a little bit harder every time. And then always, no matter what you do or where you go, you always come back in front, reward her the same way every time. Good. And then if you're ever going to do something that you think is difficult for her to handle, it's okay, before you do it, to remind her, down. Because this might be hard for her. So I'm going to the back of the house, closing this hallway door behind me, knocking the door pretty vigorously. Good. Come back in front. She wait. Nope, she touched my hand. Pull back. Good. Okay. So that's pretty easy. So maybe if I do this, it's just gonna kind of spook her a little bit. Got a chair with wheels. Can roll around. This used to really trigger her to pop up. Good. Now she's over it. Good. Or maybe sitting on the sofa farther behind her. Plop down on the sofa. Usually this is an invitation for the dog to get up and come over to you, but she knows that there's only one way she ever gets up off that mat, and that is when she's released by you in that one specific way. Good. So let's try some harder stuff. I'm going to leave her alone in the living room. I'm going to go outside and make some noise. Of course, this is going to be difficult, so I'm going to remind her, down. Hang on the windows, this is always tough. Mail slot. Good. And if she does something exceptional, give her a bigger reward. So I'm giving her a piece that's twice as big as the other. Good. Now I'm going to do some other stuff. Down. Knock on the door. Ring the doorbell. Mail slot. Finish off with this again. Maybe opening the window. Good. She's way too smart for me. Good. So we've kind of turned things around on her in her mind. She knows I'm trying to trick her to get up. So no matter where I go or what I do, she's thinking, oh no you don't. I know that if I pop up, you're just going to come in and put me back anyway, and I don't get paid. So I'm staying here no matter what until you release me the regular way. And we trick her into developing a very solid downstay. and a downstay in the presence of distractions, which you'll see in our other parts of our video where we're out in public. It's because I'm doing it this here, and because of all the work on the mat, that she's able to stay in a downstay in the presence of real life distractions as well out there in public. So it all came from starting to do this. So you want to do this exercise, even if you just have 3 minutes a day, just do quality work. Make sure that you do a little, something that's challenging for her. If you're doing something with her where she can't handle it and she makes mistake after mistake, you should back off, do something easier, end on a success. Good. Come back later to whatever that is, or whatever you're doing. Let's say that it was, here's an example. Before I went outside, closed the door, and knocked on the door, I would just open it. And she would pop up. So I just worked on that until she had that down. Good. Then I worked on dropping the leash and me stepping out with the door still open. And then she got over that. And then I started closing the door and she got over that. And then I started knocking. So you can always, you can always break whatever you're working on down into little sections. Just do the first part and then add the next and the next. And that's how you get her to be more and more calm. Developing focus and calm is what buffers her against stress. So when you teach a dog to think like this, and this is what she's doing, is she's thinking, hey, forget about that. She was after some speck of imaginary food over there. You're building up her tolerance to stress. Good. And you'll notice that she won't react to some of the things that she used to react to because you're making her better by teaching her how to think, by doing these types of exercises. So of course she's waiting for you to come back next to her, pat your leg and say, okay, and then sit. We're gonna have her go out and give her a little break in the front yard. I'm gonna do this front door thing again. She sits, I step out, she waits till I come back. Okay, she walks through with me without pulling. I have her sit, and then on the outside, I release her to be free. Go. You never release her through the door because you'll be teaching her to rush through the doorway. So you always bring her through the door, whether it's in or out, first, because this is the calm zone, and then you have her sit and release her once you've already gone through the threshold. Sit. I always have Hazel sit first before I send her into the crate. This is a little training routine. So you're using the crate as a tool for training. You're not just letting her run in and out. She has to sit and wait for permission. She loves her crate. She wants to go in there. So see how I'm not restraining her, so never restrain her, because of course that wouldn't be training. You're holding her back. So make sure that she's really sitting. She's going to be on your left as usual with your right hand. I already opened the door. And then you pat her chest and say, go. You can say, go in your crate if you want, but go, in this situation, she knows you mean go in there. And she goes in there, turns around and faces me, I give her a treat, and she does this 4 or 5 times a day. Same routine, I reach in, I take off her little collars in there. Very often people have this problem of putting on or taking off the collars or the training collars or whatever you're using, and the dog just goes nuts, especially when you're about to go on the walk, and it just destroys that respect for you because she's climbing on you, she's collapsing, she's running around, you're struggling with her. If you put on and take off her stuff when she's in there, she's just going to calmly let you do it, and she'll get used to doing it that way, and later on you can start doing it out of the crate, and you'll have a much better success at her staying calm. But this is really a great way to do it now because she'll just wait for you there and be respectful. And of course the crate for her is the greatest place in the world. It's her bedroom. Dogs are naturally den animals, and so that's her den. That's where we feed her. That's where she gets her chewies, bones, anything we give her, only in the crate, because we want to develop that crate as like the coolest place ever. So in her mind, that's where good things happen, in the crate. You control the boundary to that magical place, so she has to wait for your permission to go in, and she has to wait for your permission to come out. Therefore, that makes you very powerful in her life, and it's just another one of the many things that we do in this training that changes her perception of you and makes her think like you must be in charge if you control her access in and out of the crate. And also every interaction with you in the crate and through this process is very positive. You saw I sent her in, she went in, she turned around, she got a treat, I took her stuff off, I closed the door. And by the way, I'm just hanging the little prong collar on the door, and then you could put the leash and the choke chain wherever you want. Here at my house for the last 4 weeks, she's been sleeping in the crate every night, and throughout the day she goes in and out, all throughout the day. She might be in for an hour, out for half an hour, in for 45 minutes, out for 20 minutes. It's just always different, but she always comes out in the same way, sits at the doorway, goes through the doorway the same way, and then gets free time outside. I know you live in an apartment, so you don't have a yard, so I would suggest using this choke chain whenever you take her out, because it's not for training. It would be very dangerous if you're using this for training, because it would mess up her throat, and it would be, there's no safety on this, so it would just choke her. This would be like very old school training, which we don't do, of course. But it hangs loose, and you double it up onto this little prong collar. And if this prong collar ever comes off, you double it up on the leash, and this prong collar comes off, and the choke chain that is always hanging loose takes over, and then you don't lose her out in public. And sooner or later, these little prong collars are so small, it's the smallest size they make, they're gonna come off out there eventually, because sometimes the links wear out, or maybe you thought you put them in both little holes, but you only got it in one, you didn't notice it. So I always double up on all my dogs when I take them out in public, and I've never lost a dog, and it does happen sometimes, so I'd recommend you keep doing that. So when you're going to take her out of the crate, I always put the choke chain on first, and you can just take this little round thing here and hold it like that, and then drop the choke chain into it, and then that's the way you put it on her, like this, it's kind of like a P, only turn to the right because you're going to be facing her like this. And then I always want her to love for me to put things over her head, so I just put a little reward. I'm using this Natural Balance sausage. This is my hand through there. Open the door. She takes the reward while she's munching on it. I just slip over her head, and she loves it. So she's very, very much desensitized to that. She never seemed to have an issue with it, but a lot of dogs do, and I just do it with every dog to make sure that every dog is cool with that. And then I attach the leash to the prong collar. It gets attached to this funny looking little buckle. The perfectly round spacer is just that. It's just a spacer, this one right here, so you don't touch that. Make sure that it's not tangled, because if it's tangled, it won't work. And then if she even tries to come out, you just say no, because she needs to wait. You control this boundary. So you have the prong collar. You just reach in, hook her up. Prong collar goes, it's the highest collar up. It goes right under her ears. All the other collars are down below. Her collar with her tags and the choke chain are down below. Once it's on, you just clip the choke chain on there too. Now the leash is attached to both collars in case the prong collar ever comes off. And then she was so good, I give her a reward. There's a lot of rewards with this door open. And I've even practiced this exercise where once I have the leash on, I can step back. It's like 8 feet now. She waits. Good. If she didn't wait, I'd say no, and she'd probably go back in. But in the beginning, I started out just like this. If she waited, she got a reward. If she didn't, I'd say no and give it a little token slam. She learned really, really quickly that I control this boundary, and she waits for my permission to come out. Good. And it's just another way that you give her that impression in a gentle but firm way that you're in charge. Makes the dog feel safer, and it's another place where she has to really calm down and think and exert self-control, and that helps her mind, obviously, and helps her be calmer in other situations as well. So that's why we do this. She's waiting for you to pat your leg and say, okay. She comes out, do a little left circle. Always keep this door closed, because if you don't close it, she just goes in and out, and you squander your greatest power of using the crate for a tool for training. And of course, we're going to go outside again, sit, take her outside, and you've already seen all this already.